So we'll begin formally now. So welcome to the Hedekunda Universal Ashram. This is Jonathan. I'm Ramlochi, and Premanand has already left the temple for the evening. And we're very grateful to have Munna and Vandana work out the logistics of Chilianola not having much internet to be here with us. For us it's tonight, for them it's very early in the morning. So thank you. And we'll begin by asking you, tell us about your coming to Babaji. How did that all happen?
Are you asking me now? It's been so long that I don't know where to start. Or, he's just been around all the time. So I don't know where to start and when I first met him. Somewhere in Delhi, I remember meeting him through my aunt, Vimla. And, the very first meeting, probably it comes to my mind, was in somebody's house in Delhi. I do not recall now. But there was Baba sitting with a kind of a mala around himself, and another Swamiji sitting. I do not recall who he was. And as I walked in, my mother was there. And as I walked in, Baba just looked up and, sort of kept staring for about a couple of seconds. I was kind of, taken aback a little because, you remember Baba's very penetrating look. And he just stared. And then, of course, it passed. And then my mother remarked, she said, you seem to have gotten a very, very, penetrating stare from Baba. So probably that was it. That was the connecting point with Baba. And thereafter, of course, it just carried on. I don't know how many times one met and came. And, for some reason, since I was working full time in Delhi, I wasn't able to go to Hira Khan very much, not very often. But when Chilianola began to come up, I was so grateful because it was so easy to, drive up to Chilianola and meet with Baba and come away. But what I want to stress here, now that all this we are talking, is, I came to live in Chilianola around 2001 or 2 perhaps. Mm-hmm. And after I retired from my job, and after I came to live in Chilianola is the time that I really started feeling Baba's presence. Yes, Baba's presence. And a number of inner experiences began to happen, which had not happened when Baba was in his physical form. Because whenever we were around Baba, it was such a big drama going on. Baba's coming, Baba's going, we have to meet Baba, we have to do this for Baba. Even when he used to come to Delhi, there was so much excitement that there was never any moment, hardly any moments to sit and reflect. But it's when I came to live in Chilianola is the time when one began to reflect, one began to meditate. And in fact, I remember Baba even telling me once in Hira Khan, you don't have to sit and you don't have to meditate. My mother used to do that in his kutia. You don't have to do that. You come with me down to the river, wherever that little guest house was. And, he would go for his bath and I'd sit at the edge of the river and throw stones into the river and things like that. So he didn't really let me sit and meditate as such. But after I came to Chilianola and started living alone and doing things that one needed to do in the ashram, is the time when, things began to happen. And that's the time when the inner Babaji began to take shape. I'll hand you over to Vandana.
I just want to say how beautiful that is. And I think it's so pertinent, Munna. I just also want to ask about how old were you when you first met Babaji?
Oh, how would that be? In my early 30s, I think.
Okay.
30. Yeah. 75. Was it 75 or 74? Mm-hmm. That's the time I met him first. Before I came up to Hira Khan. The first time I came up to Hira Khan was with Baba. And, all kinds of things on the way. I remember I don't know where we stopped. And I told Babaji, I'm feeling, because I really didn't know how to, respect Guruji and be very, respectful and be very, what is the word,
Circumspect.
Exactly. So I kept bothering him on the way somewhere. I said, I'm very thirsty and I need some water, and there's no water, we've not brought. Prem Lal was there also. And then he stopped I think we were in an open jeep or something. And he said, all right, you're thirsty, we'll go and have water. I have no idea where we stopped. We got off and he took me by the hand and went down some kind of it looked a kind of a mountainous area, down, deep down into an area where there was a river flowing, beautiful area. I have never been to that area again. I don't know where it was. And he said, now you drink from here and fill up that thermos that you have. So you see, all of these little things began to happen. And then he sat there for about 5 minutes, and there were a number of birds. I remember, number of birds. So I was looking around and he said, do you follow what they are telling you? Do you understand what they're talking to you? I said, no, Baba, I don't. He says, all right, it'll happen. After a little while, it'll happen. You'll begin to understand. And then he took me by the hand again, because I was not used to climbing in the mountains and all, and went back to our jeep and carried on. Anyway, this was just an interlude. Sorry. So around 30s, Ramloti. I was in my 30s.
No,
sure.
Vandana?
So I met Babaji in the December of 1979 after my marriage. Both Arvind and I had an arranged marriage, and we were engaged for only about 4 months. And when Arvind said yes to me, he said yes, but he said it is attached to a condition that I have to ask my guru. Only if he says yes, will I marry you. So there was a little sense of resentment that who is this guru, who has to give permission for our marriage. So it was on 6th of December we married, and we were on our way to Goa for a honeymoon. And those days there was no direct flight from Delhi to Goa. We had to go via Bombay. And on our return, we found that Babaji was visiting Bombay, and he was in one of the very old devotees, Mr. Inamdar, who used to run a school in Bombay, where Babaji was staying. And so Arvind insisted that we will spend one night in Bombay and meet Babaji there. So with a feeling of resentment is the true feeling which I had at that time, that now even on our honeymoon, we have to go and meet Babaji. But we went the next day. When we arrived from Goa to Bombay, we had to reach by about 12 o'clock for lunch. And when I reached Babaji, we did pranam to Babaji, and then he made us sit. He brought a plate for me. He served me food with his own hands. And that time there was an intense feeling, as if a fatherly feeling, that he's my father. And ever since that day, sort of the love started keep growing. And though I did not spend much time physically in Hirakan, because I was back to medical school and I was doing my post-graduation, so I did not have vacation to go and spend time with him. But somehow there was that feeling from resentment completely changed to fatherly love, and then to devotion, and then ultimately he is my guru.
That's beautiful.
Bole Baba.
Can you imagine Babaji feeding you? Oh my gosh.
So, and after that, in the year 1982 and 83 are the 2 years when, successive years when Babaji came at least 3-4 times and stayed with us in our house in Delhi. And whenever he came, there was, of course, a big paraphernalia attached to it. There were lots of people. There was kirtan going on all day. There was food to be cooked, Babaji's coffee to be made, and his nuts to be prepared. So everything it was like a whirlwind visit, 2-3 days maximum, not more than 3 nights he would ever spend. And we would be so involved, though we had servants and help, but we also had to help in the kitchen. And we were so involved in doing that, we never really enjoyed his physical presence. And like Munna Ji said, it's after he left his physical body, this the time when actually we don't miss him at all. We find he is with us all the time, because those feelings have grown over a period of time. And now we don't even yearn for him to come back, because for us, he has not gone anywhere. He's the absolute consciousness who's right here and guiding us all the time.
That's beautiful.
It's like it's a conversation. I mean, I don't know if these little incidents are mentioned in the book that Indravati and I did, but little things like Archana was finishing her PhD. Was it PhD or MD? MD, right? In down in the south in Chennai, I think. And the day she had to take an exam or something like that, she developed very high fever. And Vandana called me up and she said, her typical thing is you have these conversations with Baba, ask him what we are supposed to do. The girl has her exam tomorrow. So here I am in Chilianola and I look up at Baba's picture and I said, please give us some guidance because the girl has to take her exam. Otherwise she'll be, I don't know, another year will pass or whatever. And it's very difficult even to talk about these, experiences. But, immediately, it was like immediate. I got this voice and said, you don't have to worry. I'll tell you what to do. And we have a family astrologer, ML Sharma, astrologer. And he said, immediately tell your sister-in-law, Bhabi, that's what sister-in-law is. Tell your Bhabi to get in touch with ML Sharma. And ML Sharma will tell you what to do. I mean, this is like as if he's talking to me. So immediately I called up Vandana and I said, get in touch with ML. And within the next 2 or 3 minutes, ML called me just to say hello. And I said, ML, immediately get in touch with Vandana and, have a conversation. Then ML told her what to do. She took the evening flight, went off to Chennai, got over Archana, did whatever had to be done. And Archana was, able to take her exam the next morning.
So that reminds me of the stories regarding our children related to Babaji. When Archana was born and she was 8 months old, we went it was December, and we went to celebrate Christmas with Babaji in Hirakan. And she had to have her mundan there. And what was his name? Kaka?
Yeah.
He was to do the mundan. And that day, Babaji, Mummy, that is Arvind's mother, and Arvind, Babaji sent them that you go to Haldwani and you get so many blankets I want to distribute to the villagers for Christmas. You go and buy. So Arvind and my mother-in-law went on saying, but it is my granddaughter's mundan today. How can I go? I have to give a bhandara and all that. He says, no, you will go. So they both had to go. They both missed their daughter and granddaughter's mundan ceremony, but it was Babaji's wish and everything went off smoothly. After that, Babaji gave a name to our daughter and he called her Tum Batruli. So we didn't understand because it's not a Hindi word and we could not follow what is the meaning. We looked up the meaning everywhere. We didn't know what it was. Finally, on Babaji's next visit, we asked him, what does this Tum Batruli mean? He says this is a spirit from Tibet. And if you have read Babaji's books, you know that he is supposed to have spent many years in Tibet and as Lama. So this was a spirit which could pass through very, very tiny things, like a tiny little ring the spirit could pass through. And that was the meaning of Tum Batruli. Then in February of 1984, when Babaji left his body, which was on 14th of February, our son Anjan was born on 9th. So when I was carrying my son and I was pregnant, during that time, Babaji told Arvind that you have to pray to Hanuman. And so he was given, there was a Hanuman temple, very famous Hanuman temple in Connaught Place in New Delhi. And Babaji said, and the pujari of that place is Mahanji. I think all the old devotees are aware. He was a very big devotee of Babaji. So Arvind sent him to Mahanji and said, initiate the Hanumanji prayers. So Arvind kept putting it off. I'll go he was to go on a Saturday, kept putting it off. Finally, one day he received a message that Babaji is very annoyed with you because you have not done what he has told you to do. So, and it was Gaura Devi who gave this message. So then the following Saturday, Arvind went and to have Hanumanji's protection, Mahanji said that you have to do 108 times you have to circumambulate around the Murti of Lord Hanuman, which Arvind did. And finally, when Anjan was born, that was the time on 9th of February, before we could inform Babaji, telephones were a big problem at that time, or send a telegram to him. The very next day, on 10th of February, we receive a telegram from Gaura Devi congratulating us and saying that Babaji has already celebrated the birth of your son in Hirakan. He has already distributed. So because of the Hanuman Puja, we named our son after Hanuman, and the name is Anjane, which means Anjani. Anjani was the mother of Hanuman. So this is Anjaneya, son of Anjani. And that was also one of Babaji's Leelas. And then suddenly on 14th February, Babaji was no more. We lost his physical presence, but we have not lost his presence in our lives at all. He's always with us. Bole Baba.
Jai. Beautiful. Thank you. Oh, wonderful. So as we have a pause, and you two can just go on talking as you like, because that's what happens in satsang. One story reminds you of another, and that's just fine. But also if anybody that's here, I'll just quickly put it on gallery here, has a question for Munna and Vandana, please unmute and you're welcome to ask.
I wanted to ask a question from Munna ji. She mentioned that when birds were, when she was with Babaji said that can you understand what the birds are saying? She said no, and he said you will be able to later on. So I wanted to understand, like, are you able to talk to the 5 elements now? Are you able to understand the language of the birds, as Babaji said? Just curious.
But what did happen was that more and more, you see, once while this is an old story. Later on, once I was visiting Hera Khan, or maybe the first time I visited Hera Khan, and quite cheeky and not knowing how to behave in front of a guru. But anyway, Baba took me up to, what is that mountain? One is Kailash and the other one? Siddheshwar, yes. So Baba took me up to Siddheshwar all by myself. He told my mother, I was visiting, so he told my mother, if she wants to come in the morning with me, I'm going up to Siddheshwar. And she can come. So I went with him, and Gaura, I remember Gaura even complaining, who's this new girl who's come, and he's taken her all by herself, and she's the one who gets to go to Siddheshwar. Anyhow, when we went up, the same kind of a thing was happening, lots of birds and and water. For some reason, water was always part of that scene with Babaji, always wanting me to sit next to the river, throw stones into the river. And when I start throwing stones, he would hold my hand and said, who gave you permission to throw stones, and things like that. So even when we went to Siddheshwar, this happened. And at one spot, it was very, very hot that day, very warm. So I told Baba, I'm very thirsty, as usual, in front of Baba. And I remember there was a little, I don't know, it had rained probably, and there was a little, what do you call it? A little area which had rainwater in it, very dirty, a puddle, and a very dirty water. And he said, all right, you're thirsty, we must get water for you. And he took off he had a little, like a dupatta or a scarf, and he took it off and put it on that water, just put it on the water, and the water came up through the cloth. And it was absolutely clean. He said, you drink it. I said, Baba, but this is absolutely dirty water, rainwater. He said, you drink it. And when the water came up, it was completely clean. So going back to your question about birds, you see, that time also, all this twittering of the birds and their noise around was going on. Same question, the same kind of a statement Baba said, you'll begin to understand. It hasn't happened till now, but what has happened is my knowledge of birds. It just grew.
Yeah.
It just grew. I know names of birds, and I know which bird is doing what, and which bird comes and wants what, and what food is, good for this bird. So that kind of a understanding happened, but not the actual, as you say, In fact, I was reading, I think, Raman Maharshi, one little episode with Raman Maharshi. And the same thing happened where a little sparrow came and complained to Raman Maharshi that they've taken away my nest that I had built inside. And Raman Maharshi looked at it and he said, are you angry about it? She said, of course, because I have to build a nest, my eggs have to come. And he said, I'm sorry, you won't be allowed to build a nest inside the hall. You have to go out and find a place. And she happily flew away. And I just remembered Baba at that time. I said, this is the kind of thing that Baba used to talk about and happen. But that knowledge, that knowledge did.
Okay. You have Baba with you, so that's a huge blessing.
It's a big yes.
Thank you. Om Namah Shivaya.
Shiva.
So being a person of science and medicine, I'm a doctor myself, and so is my husband. When we were getting certain equipments for the first time, we had a to start, we are pathologists, we had a very small lab, which was started by my father-in-law. And Baba had actually visited that laboratory in Connaught Place in Delhi. And we were upgrading the lab, and we were trying to bring in more instruments, more automation rather than manual tests, so that more accuracy comes in giving patient results. So there was a dilemma whether which machine to go with. So we decided that the best person to ask is Babaji. And he gave us such accurate answers. And with the machines he asked us to buy, we have never looked back. I mean, a person who was not of this world, who had no knowledge of science. I mean, that's what we thought. He had no knowledge of science and medicine, but he knew everything. He could give you absolutely the correct answers, what you wanted.
Wow.
So I mean, you could ask him any question, not just about your personal development. You could ask him for material benefits. You could ask him for your upliftment of upgradation of your scientific work. He always had an answer. So that was something, it was like he knew everything.
Omniscient. Completely. Yeah. So I wanted to ask, what made you decide to live in Chilinola ashram?
That's me?
Yes.
All right. Yes, actually, when I was working and I was coming towards the end of my tenure in Delhi, I never wanted to live in Delhi. That was a decision I had taken a long time back. I said, this city is not for me. I didn't want to live in Delhi. And then I cast around looking at mountains was what I wanted to go to. So cast around, I had an uncle living in a place called Kasauli. You may have heard of it, near Shimla. And they lived there for many years. So I even asked them to look for a place for me there. Then, Shimla itself was another place where my Arvind's mom, my aunt, and I had gone to look at a little place with some friends had said, Munna should buy this. It's a tiny little cottage, very cute, and we'll take care of her when she retires. I just went round and round in circles.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, what was happening was that Muniraj had started, Arvind's mom had told Muniraj, because mom and I used to come for a holiday to Chilinola every year. So she said, Muniraj, we need our own rooms now. This is living in this room and living in that room. So in the meantime, Muniraj had begun to build the ashram rooms where I stay now. Mm-hmm. And so by the time I retired, those rooms were ready. Wow. And we started coming, mom and I we spent a couple of holidays there. So when I was looking around, then Arvind one day sat me down and he said, why are you running around here and there and everywhere? We've got Chilinola, you've got rooms where you can go and stay. And he just took its own course. I told Muniraj I wanted to come up. He said, so who's stopping you? Come. So, I just came.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
One Navratri in Hera Khan, which was, I hardly ever visited Hera Khan. So one last Navratri in 2001 or 2. And then from there, there were some people who had come from Chilinola. And so mom went back to Delhi. That's Arvind's mom. And I came to Chilinola and never went back. That's it.
Wow. It's all Baba's blessings.
Everybody wants to have a change, they want to go away and see other places. And, okay, we are bored. Not me. I'm happy in Chilinola. So,
Awesome. Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes.
So really, it was something that got taken care of. I really didn't have something to really, I didn't have a hand in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I just want to tell you about a little incident which I remembered. How when I was, this was in 1999, Babaji was not on the scene, but I took a yatra or a pilgrimage to Kailash Mansarovar, which is in Tibet now under Chinese control. So when I reached Kailash after nearly 15 days of trekking, it was a full trekking. Now, of course, things have improved. I had to walk. When I reached, it became and the Kailash view was, we had to see the south view face as well as it has a north face. So the south face was partly visible, but when I reached the north face, that day it was extremely cloudy and it was drizzling and it was really bad weather. So I sort of, it put me off, and I felt that I came all the way and I trekked so much and so much of hard work I put in, and now I don't even get to see the north face of Kailash. So I, instead of praying to Babaji, the thought came to me, Babaji, when you used to come in 82, 83 to our house, we used to look after you. Now I've come to your house, you're hiding. This is not fair. Now it's payback time. You have to pay back for what we did for you. These are the thoughts going through my mind. And within 1 hour, it all cleared up, became sunny, and we had beautiful views of north face of the Kailash.
Wow.
So we are
That's lovely.
yeah, you don't, even your resentment comes through, but somehow Babaji always replies.
Right. And a little story comes to mind in Chillanala. One night it started thundering and thundering and thundering, and none of us could go to sleep. Finally, I was trying to sleep, and it went on. And as usual, I said, Baba, enough now. I mean, we have to sleep, get up for early morning aarti. Please stop. The same thing. Stop. Just stop. Now you go off to bed, go sleep. So these are the kind. One night, you see, there is the road outside in Chidinola. It goes down. Now it's become a little highway. And there's an old tea shop there, which is now we call it a dhaba, where most of us used to go and eat. What is his name? Whose shop is that? I forget. Anyway, the old shop there. And at night, one night, pretty late, about 10:30 or 11, I could hear these sounds from the road, and there was a person who was drunk. He was drunk and making a racket in that shop. So, and I couldn't go to sleep. It was so noisy. And then other people came and started quarreling with him. And finally I got up and I said, Baba, please take this man away. How am I going to sleep? And you won't believe it. Within the next 5 minutes, the man had gone. And I could vaguely hear his sound in the next, there's another shop. There was another shop about half a mile away. He had moved there. Moved there. So, and then he said, so Baba said, now you sleep. Okay.
Vandana, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about Mount Kailash. What prompted you to make this extremely vigorous yatra?
So I was, when I came in touch with Babaji and all those, it was from 1979 to 1984 that I would hear stories about Babaji. I would meet him off and on when he visited Delhi. And once or twice I went to Chilianala in Hirakan. Somehow that he was avatar of that, avatar, you understand, is the form of Lord Shiva, manifestation of Lord Shiva, that somehow centered within me that I have to visit all the places of Lord Shiva. And so I started the trekking in the year 1999. And I said, the first place to visit is where actually Lord Shiva lives, where Babaji lives, and that is Mount Kailash. So it was an arduous trek, and we had to go through the government of India. The Tibet was under Chinese control, and there was a Chinese visa required. And it was a very tough journey because there were no roads. We had to walk right we went from Delhi to Almora, and from Almora to another place called Dharchula, till where the bus went. And from there, that place, we had to start walking. And every day we would walk, and it would range from about 10 to 12 kilometers. And that was the time it was my first trek, and it was, I was not used to that kind of walking. So the only thing I used to pray to Babaji is that please make sure that I reach and I visit the place where you live. And it was like something, there was an inner strength which came built up day by day, and every day it became easier for me to walk. In fact, when we reached the Chinese border, we had to cross it's called a Lipu Lake Pass, which we had to cross at a height of nearly 17,000 feet. And you can imagine the oxygen is so rarefied, the air is rarefied, oxygen is low, and we were all huffing and puffing. And in fact, there was a medical examination which was held just before we reached the pass, and 5 or 6 people were rejected and had to be sent back to India. Delhi. So I was just praying to Babaji that please make sure that my blood pressure is okay. I'm absolutely fine. And before my blood pressure was to be taken, I did just went on reciting Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, and then everything was fine. And I was able to cross that border and get into China and Tibet. So there also, in fact, there were greater difficulties in after crossing this Lipu Lake Pass and getting into China or Tibet, because there was a total non-cooperation from Chinese. There was a resentment towards any religious activity. And though this is a place which is frequented not only by Hindus, but it is also frequented by the Tibetans and the Buddhists, it's a highly, highly religious sacred place. But the anti-Chinese sentiment was so much that they would make things absolutely difficult for us. The places where we had to stay, there were no doors and windows. Tibet is as you know, is a desert at high altitude. It's very, very windy and dusty, and icy cold winds blow. And there were no toilets. They had made holes in the ground and they would not even clean those. It was absolutely dirty, filthy. But we were just to reach Kailash, we were willing to undertake any kind of difficulty. Then they had those wild dogs. At night, if we wanted to use the loo, we had to take sticks with us so that the wild dogs don't attack us. And now, of course, over the years, things have improved a lot and civilization has really improved the conditions. However, but it was very tough. And then I had to walk. I was in a group because the Indian Ministry of External Affairs in India puts you in a group. They don't want you to go alone because of the anti-Chinese sentiment. So we were a group of about 11 people. And to do the circumambulation of Mansarovar, it was 85 kilometers. So we had to do it over 3 days, but in one day, since there was no place to stay in between, we had to walk 35 kilometers. So you can imagine, I mean, people who are not used to trekking at all and who are not used to walking, but somehow that inner strength came and we were able to do that. And it's only thanks to Babaji that I was able to visit these places. And then for Kailash, we had a circumambulation or parikrama of 53 kilometers, which had to be done again over 3 days. And Kailash, you reach a height of nearly 19,000 feet. So it is, and very, very windy, but I had carried small shivling with me and little arti articles like kapoor and all. So we were able to light it in spite of the strong winds and all the Tibetan flags flapping in the wind. And I did Babaji's Aarti of Karpur Gaurav. So my visit was really successful, and it is all thanks to Babaji that I could finish it and come back hale and hearty. I had no problems at all. And that prompted me in every year now I trek and I visited all the places of Lord Shiva. Then when I ran out of them, I visited the places of Vishnu and then Ganesh and all I do high altitude trekking, which is above 10,000 feet. So thanks to Babaji, I'm able to trek even now.
Have you seen all the Jyotirlingams?
Jyotirlingams I'm keeping for the last because they are all motorable or they are reachable. They are highly approachable by air, by train. So I'm keeping that for my really old age when I am not able to trek. Right now, I just want to trek and visit the places in the mountains. And the most beautiful thing in the mountains are these abandoned little temples they have. They have a temple where just made of stone, very, very primitive. And there's an idol inside. Most of these places have idols they have shivlings. So these are all places of high altitude I think, places of Lord Shiva. And there are the pujari. There's no pujari there. The pujari comes in 6 months of the winter. It's so severe, they can't come. And in summer, they come only once in a month. They come and they put some flowers there and there's a little bit of money or coins put around by the people who are trekking or the local villagers who come. So these are totally abandoned temples, but you cannot imagine the kind of energy these temples have. They are so beautiful, rather than the city temples which we visit.
Just like the Jageshwar and Dandeshwar is also one of those ancient temples, right?
Jageshwar is heaven. Jageshwar is heaven.
Yes, I've been there.
Heaven. At night, I spent the night in the outside in Jageshwar, and I heard an om, I heard
Wow.
Om everywhere. I heard Om. It was the most unbelievable experience.
That's right.
Yes.
I highly recommend Jageshwar.
Yes. Yes, I
Gayatri,
also, yeah. Sorry, go
right.
ahead.
It's getting more and more. I go to Jageshwar pretty often. It's getting more and more
Crowded.
commercial.
Oh,
Lots
mush.
of guest houses, lots of little stay places, and all have come up. So the old atmosphere that we used to have is not there. But I agree. Even now, if you go with the devotion and the feeling, it's there. So, and yes, anyone who's coming this way, a visit to Jageshwar, let me recommend, is a must. Is a must. I remember going with Babaji and Babaji catching, there was I don't know, maybe Gayatri, you were there sometime. And, there used to be a huge tree. I think that tree is still there. And it used to have a peculiar kind of leaves, which would, if you sort of put it on the back of your hand, it would leave a kind of a print. That was Baba's game. Come here. And he'd hold our hands like this and, keep on patting it with one of those leaves and leave a little print there. I mean, I remember that little game going on. So with Baba, whenever the Chijanala thing used to happen, a visit to Jageshwar and a visit to, what's the Mama's temple up there? Dronagiri. So these two places were a must. We just had to go there. So these are the two places that I recommend for anybody who's new to the area and who's just visiting. Yes.
Did you say in Dunagiri the Vaishnav temple, Mars temple, right?
Mars
Right.
temple.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
as a Baba. That's the place where Hanuman found his jari booty. When he went to jari booty, and the place is chock-a-block with these herbal plants, which I mean, we do not understand. But Baba used to know which plant is what and that kind of a thing. And he said he took the plant from here and went to revived Lakshman wherever they were.
Oh.
That reminds
Okay.
me of a little interesting story. This is when during one of my treks, I was very close to the Dronagiri, the mountain, which is a Himalayan peak. And in that Dronagiri, that area, there is in the little temples they have, the local villagers said that we do not pray to Lord Hanuman because we have a strong resentment against Hanuman because he took picked up our mountain and
Yes.
took it away to. So, they are anti Hanuman. So the little stories come up when you go
That's
to these villages.
I have I want to give a moment if somebody else would like a question, but otherwise I have a question for Munna. Munna, in this blue book, which I can never say the name very well, Snasaram, something.
That's right.
Yeah.
Samswaranam.
A wonderful book full of amazing stories. You wrote about a time that you were in Harakan with Babaji and your mother, and I think your aunt, and I don't know who else, but that suddenly he took you a walk up into the village and came to this old place that maybe was there or not, who knows. And you went in and sat there and interesting things happened. And you explained that he said it was where the knots lived.
Oh, yes. Right.
Can you tell more about that experience and explain it? Because I was and I've never been able to find it again in the book even. So I need to hear from you.
I see. Okay. Actually, I wasn't there personally, Ramloti, but Arvind's mom, my aunt, she was there. I don't think my mom was there. My own mother was there, but my aunt was there, and Prem Lal was there, and a number of other devotees. Baba decided to take them up for a walk. He said, let's go for a walk, as Baba used to do in Herakan. And they went up, and of course, later on, these ladies did not remember where Baba had taken them. And they were, it was like a kind of a ruin, kind of a broken house. And there was a door, and they went through the door, and there was an open courtyard, a big open courtyard. And inside that courtyard, a number of men, no, there were no women, I think, but number of men were busy, doing little things like there was a Havan Kund and somebody was working on that, and there was something else going on, and everybody was very, very preoccupied. Nobody took any notice of Baba entering. He just walked in and asked the others to walk in. And this was a huge courtyard, and there was a little charpai there, lying there, a cot. And Baba went and sat on it and asked the devotees to sit around him, and just sat there. And nobody, not a single one of those people, there must have been several, 20, 25, took any notice of Babaji. Anyway, people just sat around. And then after about maybe 5 or 10 minutes, suddenly there was a big, hustle in the big group, and they all started running towards this big gateway kind of a place where Baba had come through, and they ran towards the opening. And Baba kept sitting, and they ran towards the opening, and as if somebody was coming through the door. Nobody could see anyone. But these people started bowing and doing pranam on doing a sashtang pranam on the floor, and complete change of atmosphere. Baba didn't get up even then. And then it appeared to our crowd that was there that somebody walked right up to Babaji and did pranam to him. And Baba just raised his hand. He didn't utter a word, just raised his hand. And then after that, this other crowd that was there, who had taken no notice of Babaji, suddenly decided, sort of realized that there was some special person sitting here. So, and they all came and started doing pranam to Babaji, and Babaji just smiled and just went on blessing people. And that was the end of that incident. Nobody knew what this was all about. It was like a little drama going on. After 5-10 minutes, Baba said, now we can go. Let's go. So then when they all came out and they were walking down, then of course my aunt, who could never resist asking questions, she said, now what was all that about? We didn't see anybody. What was that drama? Then Baba said that this is Gorakhnath's place, Gorakhnath, Guru Gorakhnath. And the being or the entity that came through the door was Gorakhnath himself.
Wow.
And my aunt said, but these people never took any notice of you. He said, what does it matter when they don't know who I am or don't know? But Gorakhnath he doesn't come in a form now. He comes, in this subtle way. And that is, we had a little conversation, and that was what it was all about. So that was the experience, Ramloti.
Wow. So tell me.
And of course, later on, nobody knew where they had gone, where Baba had taken them, what that place was. Nobody seemed to know.
Or like I said, it even existed, just like your place. You went down the side of the mountain there with Baba when you were thirsty.
Yeah, right.
These things. But can you say, guys, one moment, a little bit more about knots?
Not really, Ramloti. I have really knowledge of this because I've not read much about them, except that Gorakhnath is who's been in our lives because of Baba. That's also because of Babaji, and the whole philosophy of the Naths, and the whole philosophy of I don't want to say anything about that, but Gorakhnath, particularly Gorakhnath, and later on I read his book also, is basically it's Advait, it's like oneness, and but also very simple and matches exactly what Baba's philosophies of simplicity, love, and what's the third one? Truth, simplicity, love, and truth. So this is just to come back to what we are now, is what is becoming more and more part of our lives. Life has become simpler, of course, as we sort of move away from the busy lives and the busy cities and the busy family life and the busy friends and going here and there and everywhere. Apart from the simplicity of it and the truth, of course, as Baba used to say, you just follow one and the others will come. Just follow one. Be simple, be truthful, or be loving. Just one, and the others will dovetail. And that's what I am finding in my life. Just giving up the city life, just coming to live in Chilianola, just slowly, everything is just falling away. And with the falling away, the demand on life, the expectation from life, the you know, the desires that, you know, I need something from this, that, or the other from life. That is, you know, falling away very slowly. Maybe it's taken now. I'm here now 18, 19 years, but definitely. And that is what I feel is the actual essence of Baba wanted us to learn. So this is, you know, this is the simplicity that has come. The what is it?
Understanding.
The understanding and the need not to compromise with truth, with the, you know, the way you are, the way you live. There's no need to do all those things. And that is what he used to say. You don't have to compromise. You don't have to tell lies, you know, that the way we used to carry on. It's necessary to tell lies. It's necessary to bribe people. It's necessary. No, it's not necessary. It's not necessary. It's necessary only because your ego tells you that you have to go forward in life. Otherwise, how will you manage this? How will the government not give you those, you know, those allowances and all that you need? All that is going on, but it is not necessary, and it is not difficult to live within the ambit of Baba's teachings. So going back to your question on Naths, is when I read about Gorakhnath and I read his teachings, is also what I felt is the way you would have to lead your life. And leading and going through these precepts is what makes your, you know, peace, your living, peaceful living in everyday life. Peace of mind.
So Ramloti, just to add to that, you know, this is for the Christian devotees who are followers of Jesus Christ. There are books available now which we've read where it talks about the missing years of Jesus. And those missing years are right from his teenagers till he was in his early 30s is what are called the missing years. Those missing years he's supposed to have spent in India, and he is supposed to be one of the Naths. So he's part of this Nath group, as per the Indian, as per the Indian belief.
And research goes on and on and on. So, you know, all of that happens.
Thanks, Vandana.
But yeah. So
Guys,
even why even you know, this Baba's teaching, Baba's presence, Baba's you know, the very fact that he became part of our lives is just sufficient. Just sufficient.
it's
If one is to follow it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so my question, it's
Come a little closer, Gayatri.
oh, sorry. My question is, can one of you tell the story of when Vimla was in the car and Babaji was in the road?
Which one is this? When they were going to Dwarahat or
Yeah.
Okay, so
You know?
this is Gayatri. This is an old story now. I think it's been repeated ad nauseum.
I bet people on this call haven't heard it.
This was Vimla and my uncle, Arvind's father. They were visiting Ranikhet, and they were here, very close here, where Arvind's house here in Kalika is, the golf course. And they taking a drive there and just enjoying the area. And Vimla was always reading, always had that book, autobiography of a yogi in her hand. And she was looking around and saying, oh, this is where, you know, Yoganand must have seen Babaji, or where Lahiri Mahasaya must have met, you know, the Mahavatar Babaji. And she went on and on and on and said, let's try and go to this place called Dronagiri that Baba talks about. And so my uncle, you know, just more or less to humor her, he said, okay, let's take a drive, we'll go. And he was persuaded. So they went, they had this old, you know, what car was it? Ambassador car. And there was no regular road to Dronagiri that time. It was just a kacha, as we call it, a kacha road. And so anyway, they started asking people how we get to this place called Dronagiri. They had no idea. You know, people guided, and they came onto this horrible road, you know, on which my uncle was quite concerned that the tires are going to give way. But having gone a little distance, there were two sadhus walking on the road, and they hailed the car to stop. So my uncle stopped, and both of them wanted to ride up to Dronagiri, and they said, we are going up to there. And my uncle even asked, we are trying to get up to that place. How do we? He says, we'll tell you. We'll get in. Both of them, said, you give us a ride, we'll tell you. Both of them got into the car. And so slowly, anyway, they made their way up to Dronagiri with these people. And my aunt was very sure that this was, one of them was Babaji guiding them up to Dronagiri. And they went up there and they said, we'll tell you how to even, get into the mandir. At that time, Dronagiri was not what it is now. There was a big gate there, and it used to close, I think, after the morning puja or the morning aarti. They used to shut that gate. And then there was this huge wall which was there, almost impenetrable. So you couldn't go in. So by the time they got to Dronagiri, that area, the temple had closed, and the gate was closed. So as Vimla, of course, would never say die. So she said, now we have to get inside, and we've come all this way. So then, the sadhu said, we'll help you. So I hope I'm remembering the sequence right. And, this one of the sadhus, she said, but how do we get over? How do we go over? He said, I'll help you. So he put his hand, out to help. I said, put your feet on my hands and I'll push you over. And that's what happened. That's how they got over and went into the main area. And there was this tiny little temple. It's much nicer now. Beautiful steps have been made, but there was nothing like that before. So they went over the wall, and there was this little temple, and they did a little puja there. And my uncle took pictures, and then they decided to come back. And when they came back, the sadhus, the two sadhus, they just disappeared. They were not there anymore. So my aunt thought it's fine. They were there for a purpose. They are not there now. So they've gone on their way. So when they came out, and my uncle had taken pictures. So when they came out and they came back, I think, to Delhi, and he got these pictures, the film, the roll developed, there were no pictures. There were no prints. So that portion of their going into the temple, doing the puja, those two sadhus, there's no record of that. Nothing came in the camera. So that was there. So of course, Vimla was convinced that was Babaji, and maybe Mahendra Maharaj. I think that's what she thought it was. He was. Yeah. Fascinating things. Right. Have any of you been to the Siddha Ashram here in Shitlakhet?
Where is that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Where is the... No, I'm asking, where is Siddha Ashram?
Shitlakhet? You've been... It's a place called Shitlakhet. It's a tiny place. It's a little village called Shitla. Not so tiny now. A tiny village called Shitlakhet, where Mahendra Maharaj had gone to do tapasya. He had been instructed by Babaji to go there, and he had made a little hut there, which is still there in the Shitlakhet Mandir, and that's where he had done his tapasya.
Where is it located exactly?
Who's asking?
Very close to Ranikhet.
It's close to Ranikhet. It's about 40 minutes. 40 minutes. As you go towards Almora, as you go from Ranikhet towards Almora, on the way there is a turn to the right. There's an indication there. There's a turn to the right to Shitlakhet. And Shitlakhet by itself is a little overgrown village, I would say. And there is a family, the Pathaks, I think they're called the Pathaks, who own the area of the mandir, the Siddha Ashram. And they are the ones who take care of that place.
And isn't that where Mahendra Baba sat and kind of protest and didn't eat until Babaji appeared to him? There in that place, that house, that little mud thing is where Babaji gave him darshan.
That's right. Gave him darshan. Not only gave him darshan. Also, when he first came to the place, there was no water. So Baba said, you go out, and told him whatever little instruction. You go out, and Mahendra Maharaj had a kind of a little stick like that. And there was a little place in the side of the mountain. He said, just go and tap that. So Mahendra Maharaj went and tapped that place, and water started streaming out. And that is still there, that stream. And the whole village took water from there. And that stream is still there. Yeah, yeah. Evergreen. Yeah, it's there. So yeah, those are the little things that happened. Later on, there was this Mani Maharaj who came and lived there for many, many years. Also, who had been instructed, Mani Maharaj, I think, came from some town in UP. And he used to do his sadhana there. And he was instructed by Mahavtar Babaji, to come to Shitlakhet and do the rest of his sadhana. He says, that is my place. Go to Almora and place called Shitlakhet and go and do your sadhana. So subsequently, Mani Maharaj did a lot of sadhana in that same little kutia that Mahendra Maharaj did his sadhana in. Mani Maharaj just passed away a couple of years ago.
Oh.
So yeah, so it's a delightful little place, Gayatri. Whenever you're here again, you must visit it again.
Whatever happened to Yogi?
Very energetic.
The Yogi, the bhajan player, Yogi Ji. Do you know him?
Jalandhar.
Yogi Jalandhar.
Yeah, whatever happened to him?
We totally lost touch, but he is somewhere very close to Almora. Once Arvind and I visited him.
Walking down the hill to that little terrace place, I also went there. I often think of him, but never have heard another word.
He's
Actually,
go back and see if he's still living there. I have to go back.
Right. Couple of years back, there was a little do, like something to do with Baba. Now I forget, some kind of we had gone to Almora for some little Baba function. I'm not sure what it was, from Chilenola. And Jalandhar was there. I met him. And while he's, it's not the same thing. But he's there. He's still doing whatever he used to do. I believe in between he had lost his voice, and because he had become very commercial, and Baba said, I'm not going to allow you to sing anymore. You're mischief making. You're not utilizing. Then it all came back. He started singing again. He's become a little bit of a guru himself, and he still lives there only. Very nice, very sweet. He asked about Arvind and Vandana and the children and all that. But still very sweet. But we are not. He doesn't come to Chilenola very much. He doesn't come as he used to.
Is he still a sadhu?
He's a sadhu. He's a sadhu.
The man where I'm asking about, everybody was very close to Baba for a long time, and he wore ash. He wore vibhuti a lot also. And he had this amazing vibration in his voice. So it like conveyed Baba's presence somehow. The two together were out of this world. Yeah. But then, he lost his voice. Definitely he lost his way. If he lost his voice, he lost it. And that is fierce grace. Fierce grace. Yeah.
Yeah.
So does somebody else have a question for these lovely ladies?
Talking so much about Baba, I think it's going to be difficult to spend the day now doing other things.
Those of us who are at night have a hard time sleeping after this. So it's very, can maybe each of you come up with another just experience you had with Baba that touched your heart or taught you something?
So Ramroti, I think it's been, it's not a sort of a life full of miracles with Babaji. I have not had that experience at all, that there was but it is all about the absolute or the highest level of consciousness which pervades us all. And that is the feeling I get. And what I have gained from being a devotee of Babaji is the personal development which has happened. It has ingrained in us the importance of being compassionate and having gratitude. And that is, and if you follow Baba's teachings, you will automatically follow this path. So it is I think it is moving away from the rituals of the practice, what we do at Navratri time, and moving to a higher plane where there is an understanding has developed that we do not need any physical form. We are not hankering after any physical reappearance of Babaji because he is there with us at all times, and there is immense grace on us and our family. I would say, just say that. That is, I mean, the very fact that from me, who came from a family of practically atheists, where we had just one idol in the house. My mother and my father, we never prayed every day. We didn't even light an agarbatti. From that to have moved to the other extreme is, I would say, a development which has only happened thanks to Babaji.
Right. And you see, it reminds me of one little incident. I was visiting Hera Khan, which I did very infrequently. And when I used to see, and I was completely, not taken up by all the rituals of Havan and all of that thing that Baba used to do. So I was, of course, very timid in front of Baba, so I wouldn't ask him. But I asked my mother, asked my mother, I said, why does Baba, given the height that Baba is at, why does he indulge in these rituals, and why does he make such a drama of these things? And my mother, of course, as usual, had to go and tell Babaji all about it. And then Baba said, there is the same thing, like people have to come up through different grades. There are levels. And he said, if I don't do this, who do you think is going to come? Is somebody going to come to Kailash to visit with me, meditating there for 40 days or what? Is anybody going to understand that? Is anybody going to even get the feel of what it's all about? So there has to be a starting point. And unless I do that, people will not come. And in Hindi, he said, मैं अपने भक्तों को, this is to collect my devotees. मैं अपने भक्तों को इकट्ठा करता हूँ. So through the rituals. So it doesn't mean that you stick to the rituals, which are lovely, because they give you such a good feeling. But you have to go beyond that eventually. My mother, for instance, my mother was a great meditator, and she used to meditate several hours in a day. So whenever she went to Hera Khan, Baba used to never allow her, not allow her, but never encourage her to sit for any havans and things like that. He said, you go to the kutia, go to Baba's kutia, and you do your meditation there. So these were levels, and these are stages that people have to go through. And he says, मैं तो अपने भक्तों को इकट्ठा कर, this is to collect my devotees. Right. So it's all a growth. It's all such a growing process. And that's what, as Vandana says, what are miracles? I think this itself is a miracle. This itself is a miracle, to come in contact with a Guruji like Baba. This itself is a miracle that, we have seen in our own lives the kind of changes that have happened. So miracles for us, I don't look for a miracle of, something ash coming out or things like that.
Munna, can I ask you, did Bhupi ever tell you the story of Baba calling him to sit in his room and Babaji condensing in a ball of light and shooting out the window to the top of Kailash? Did Bhupi ever tell? Okay, can I tell you a story quickly? I was having there was rumored that Sai Baba was being, I don't know, some crazy rumor about a guru or something. So I was asking Bhupi, do you ever have a doubt of Babaji? Do you ever doubt him that he is Shiva or he is the Lord? And he said, no, I will never doubt him, because I saw something that I could hear he killed somebody and it wouldn't matter to me. I am at his feet. And I said, what happened? And he said, Baba called him one night to sit in his kutir right in front of the bed on the floor. And he was sitting in asan, I don't know the name of the asan, but like triangle on his bed. And all of a sudden his whole body started to dissolve. But not dissolve, it was still there as light. So the form was still there. And then all this thing came together into a ball the size of about a baseball. And it hovered for 1 second and shot out the window, tiny little window by the bed, and out and gone. And he told Bhupi, no matter what happens, don't leave. don't be afraid and don't leave. And so he sat there, and he was there for like a few hours, and he was going through all sorts of things. And he just, I mean, something was so whatever. And then at about a few hours, the ball came back through the window, hovered over the bed, and literally became the body of Babaji sitting again on the bed. And he said, you can go to rest now. And so later he told Bhupi that there was an Asura that was going to attack his kutir.
Oh.
And he needed a devotee who loved him absolutely, that if he left in the kutir, the Asura couldn't touch him, and it couldn't destroy his kutir, while he went to a meeting on the top of Kailash with other gods or other beings. It was, and I will never forget that as long as I live, him telling me that story. And I mean, I had never had a doubt anyway, but that one, to hear that it was beautiful. I love your brother.
Marvelous. I never heard this story.
Yeah.
Never heard this story.
Yeah.
It's always the first time.
Yeah.
Well, you going to Kailash is a first for me, Vandana. I'm very respectful. I have a totally new level of respect for you doing that.
As we all know.
You lucky girl.
Talk more often, Gayatri.
Right. You see, which reminds me of another. Are we finished or are we still carrying on?
I'll
Bed.
listen.
Please go.
8 now, right? Okay, I think time for bed.
No, we want to listen.
No. Yeah. Yeah, we go.
All right, just a
till nine.
story. Look, coming from this story about Bhupi that you just said. Once I was in one of my rare visits to Herakan, maybe first or second time. And, remember the old rooms, as Baba used to say, they were the railway compartments, he used to call them, tiny little 4 or 5 rooms in a row and 4 or 5 rooms on top. And at night and Prem was there, my mother was there. So at night I got up to drink water, and, remember those tiny little windows that the rooms had. And there was a little water container there, water carrier, a surahi. So I got up to drink water, and I looked out of the window, just looked out of the window. And I could see, the river from there, the river. And the sight that I saw was there was a huge fire on the river bed, huge fire. And there were people dancing around the fire. Like little, I would say like, what are they called? The small pygmies, the tiny, as if they were very short, stocky people, with a little thing around their waistline, completely bare on the top, and dancing around that fire, just dancing around that fire. I was so petrified, when I looked at that scene. I said, my God, what is it? And I just stared and stared, and Prem got up in the meantime. She said, what is it, Munna? What is bothering you? I said, come and look, Prem. I mean, what is this sight in the middle of the night? And Prem looked, and by the time Prem looked, the whole thing went dark. And as if, the fire just went down. She really got the feeling of it, but didn't see the scene. So then my mother never got up. So the next morning, I described this whole scene to my mom. And I said, what was this? So it's very, very scary. So my mother had to go to Baba and ask him. And then he looked at her and he said, so Munna saw this? He said, Munna saw this whole scene? So she said, yes. And so he became a little serious, and he became thoughtful. And he said, was she scared? And she said, she's petrified. So he said, okay, this will never happen again. Tell her not to be scared. This will never happen. Actually, she should not have seen this. These were his words. Actually, she should not have seen this.
Wow.
This is not a sight for her. And tell her she will not see it again. Anyway, just another experience, Gayatri.
Wow.
So did he explain why you should not see it?
No, he didn't explain.
I think that was not his style.
No.
Babaji's style was not to
He did
explain.
not explain.
That's sincere.
I have a question. Why does one feel very drawn to Himalayas? Like, I've always felt like Himalaya is my home, and I want to always, I always want to have like a small house in Dunagiri. And it's like when I get there, I feel like home. I don't want to go away from there. I just want to remain there.
So you see, in Himalayas, the thing is that the Himalayas are two components. One is the Nepal side and the Indian side.
Yeah.
This which you get of a strong vibration and something which gives you peace is on the Indian Himalaya side, and this is because for thousands of years the sages have meditated on these peaks, and even now there are stories, caves, there are people living for 250 years who through their yogic practices have been able to control their level of metabolism, their oxygen intake. Everything is so controlled that they're able to live for hundreds of years and continue to meditate. And these are the people who do not want to leave those caves and come into society and preach. So you will never know how they have attained those heights, but it is the vibrations of these people that makes Himalaya so sacred. I have trekked a
Yes.
lot in the Himalayas, and the kind of peace which you get, you actually feel the presence of Babaji in those areas.
Yes, absolutely.
The top of
I agree.
Kailash in Harakan is just, for me, Kailash in Harakan is a darshan I would travel as far, as hard as it would get to be in front of. It's just, to me, Kailash in Harakan is, Babaji spent 40 days up there in Tapasya. And then when he came out of his meditation, they wanted to bring him water for bath. And he let water down his body and said, I've already had my bath. Holy cow, you guys, that's just wow. Wow.
Also, Pujari. Pujari, are you still here? Oh, there's Pujari. Pujari, you shared a story. Pujari, you shared a story about being, I think, a Kedarnath with Babaji and him pointing to the caves up there. Can you just shortly tell that? Because I think this fits in with this idea of the power of the Himalayas and how long he had.
No, it's a little bit a different story. What happened to me in Kedarnath on one of the yatras, we went with Babaji to Badrinath and Kedarnath. And it was a story that Raghu remembered. I was hanging in this big bell in Kedarnath. Probably Vandana knows very well. There's this huge bell. I had to climb up and ring the bell because Babaji was coming in. The only thing that I remember from that visit is that I was sitting in a chai shop with Raghu, and then Baba was giving darshan in one of the halls close to the temple. And then he sent all the people away from, go look, where is my pujari? And it is a special moment for me because there Babaji really made me his pujari, and I had to do every morning, evening puja to him, prepare the things, and that was like my initiation in this place. And it was a very strong moment, and just heartbreaking that I realized that really I'm with Lord Shiva. He showed me his temple, he made me his pujari. It was an incredible, intense period in my young life, the miracle of being with Babaji. We are so incredibly blessed by these incidents. That's all I remember from my Kedarnath darshan. But then all these mountains around, and it was, you are in another loka. You are thought-free, problem-free. Everything went natural and beyond thinking. We lived on a level. Muniraji supported me to see what is a Janeu, where I get the water, and he knows the whereabouts of how to get organized, the tuni, and I had to learn all these things. But Baba was very strong. Where is my pujari? So it was a very like you're Ramloti. For me, it was like you're my pujari. So where are you? I had many plays with Baba that he was, when I was drifting off, where is my pujari? So, no, that's my Kedarnath experience, but I can relate to Vandana and Munna's stories of the beauty of Chilianola, the beauty of Dronagiri. Also, that's very interesting. After Baba Samadhi, I stayed for almost 3/4 of a year or 1 year with Muniraji. And many times we went with the bus to the ashram, Chilianola, and then he would take me privately, just alone by bus. We would go to Dronagiri, and we would do a little puja in the temple, and he would come back. It was almost once in 2 weeks, we would just go there quietly and come back. He didn't say a word why or how or what. I also didn't understand, but I loved it as a pujari. Oh, nice, we're going on the bus, brr, 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 do the puja and come back to the temple. But I could see from that time, Munina's dedication to that place was immense. And he didn't need public. He didn't need to go with many people. He just went alone. Okay, I could come with him, but it was, his devotion to that place was magical. But also the peace. I remember walking through the mountains with Muniraji even from Ranikhet all the way to the ashram, like a 2-hour walk we took. But he didn't say a word. And I noticed I was in another world, thoughtless presence. It was such, Muniraj had that quality. If you're close to him, you become kind of free of thinking. Very beautiful. If I remember these early days, 1984, 1985, it was magical time. But I give, that's my story about Kedarnath. I leave it there. Beautiful to see the Devis, Gayatri. Also so happy to see you in the night. You're still alive and awake.
I'm awake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't miss it. These women, oh my gosh, you guys, I love you so much, Vandana and Munna. I love you so much from afar. Really do. You know, I was thinking, you said, you know, Baba, if you prayed, he would answer your prayers. And I thought, well, I saw Arvind on the cover of Forbes magazine. And I thought, he must have prayed at least once for success. At least asked once in his life for that while he was doing his job or whatever. I was so proud of him. Wow.
That was Babaji. You see, I remember him saying,
Babaji.
whatever you ask for, whatever you want, I'm behind you. I'm your back. In Hindi, he would say, "Hum tumhari peeth hai." So it doesn't matter whether it's spiritual, it's material, it's worldly, it's out of this world. Whatever it is that you want, you will get if I'm behind. So Arvind's success story is that also.
Yeah.
Behind him, pushing him to, get whatever he wants. So there you are.
And Vandana, your son is amazing. Your son's photographs are the most amazing. Oh my goodness, he is getting such a blessed experience to go and see these animals and then share them. Oh my goodness, what a talent. What an amazing talent he has. I love him dearly.
So much knowledge also, Ramluti. Bye, Archana. We don't want to see your cat. All right.
Yes.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ramloti, for
Bole Baba ki jai.
Ramloti.
Bye, Mona ji.
Bye.
Bye, Vandana ji. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Hariom.
Bye. Nice talking to you, everyone.
I hope I see you soon.
Bye.
I hope I see you soon, Munna. I hope I see you soon.
Yes, thank you.
I hope I see you soon too.
Next time you're there.
For sure.
Sure.
Baba ki jai.
Thank you.